This book is filled with hope and promise from my life, now and for eternity. I'm ready to receive what God has for me from His Word. In Jesus' name, amen. Turn, if you would, to the Gospel of John, chapter 2. Gospel of John, chapter 2. Last week we looked at chapter 1, and we saw that Jesus invited people to come to Him. Come and see, He said. Come and see. And then in chapter 1 we saw that He invited people to come and see, and then He invited them for a closer look. Come and follow. Right? And so the challenge was out for them to draw closer. Now we're going to go into chapter 2, and we're going to see 3 events that tell us a little bit more about the disciples. There's a pattern in chapter 2 that I didn't pick up on before this week. As I was looking at this week, I saw a new pattern that I hadn't seen before. And so I want to present that, believing that it's the move of the Spirit that drawing us into that point. But first I want you to think about the fun little exercises that you did in grade school, dot to dot. It's a great little thing to do for kids who are learning the alphabet. You go from A to B to C to D, and the dots are scattered on the page, and the real simple ones, you can see what the picture is before you draw the lines in. And that gets more complicated, and you got to get a lot of way through it before you see that it's an octopus, or whatever the figure is that you're supposed to. But the dot to dot, you go from one to the next to the next. And then, that exercise kind of disappeared after the early grades, and it showed up again later when you were learning how to plot a graph and coordinates on a grid, and then you were playing dot to dot again. But it was X and Y instead of just a single value. In this chapter, I'm looking at the disciples and I'm seeing them connect the dots. It's as if they've got this dotted outline for them, and Jesus is helping them bridge from dot to dot, and the picture comes into focus. They are connecting the dots, and they have that aha moment. I love the aha moments in life. And suddenly, the light comes on, you get it. So chapter 2, John's Gospel, starting in verse 1. On the 3rd day, a wedding took place in Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone jars, water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum with his mother and brothers and his disciples. There they stayed for a few days. There's a whole lot more here than we're going to be able to cover. But the miracle that Jesus performed at the wedding revealed his glory. The miracle revealed his glory, and his disciples believed. it was another step. The disciples had been invited. They were not yet disciples when they were first invited. He said, come and see. He invited them in for a closer look. Some of them had been John's disciples, and he invited them, take a closer look. And then he said, come and follow. And he was asking for a larger commitment, asking them to be understudies, students under him, disciples. That's what a disciple is. It's a learner under discipline. So they were his disciples. And we read about Nathanael and how Nathanael says, wow, how did you know me when I was under the fig tree before Philip came and got me? And Jesus said, I saw you and I know you. Right? He knows us. He knows us by name. And now he's helping to connect the dots for the disciples. And he does this miracle, and they believed. They believed. Though we know the miracle of the water to wine at the wedding in Cana, we know how it unfolds and how it ends. I'm thinking from the passage, most of the wedding guests didn't. Most of them were clueless as to what was going on with the near catastrophe, as far as hosting goes, of running out before the party's over. And Mary brings it to Jesus' attention. I think this is interesting, you know. She doesn't tell him what to do. She just says what the problem is. They've run out of wine. This is not good. I think it's interesting. We don't know whose wedding it is. We don't know who got married. We don't know the bride and groom. But Jesus did, and his mom did, and his brothers were there. So it may have been a relative, a cousin. It may have been Mary's concern for the embarrassment of not being well enough prepared to take care of your guests. Oh no, we ran out of wine. What? This is embarrassing. People are going to say for years, oh, remember when Jimmy got married? They weren't ready. It may have just been that she was trying to protect them from some embarrassment. I don't know. We're not told that. We're not told the name of the bride and groom. We're not told how they're related to Mary and Jesus and his brother. We're not told. There's an awful lot in Scripture we are not told. And I try not to fixate on the stuff I'm not told. But I'm curious, so I got a list of questions. When I get to heaven, I want to ask, who was that wedding anyway? Not that it'll matter then either, but I'm curious. But what we want to fixate on is what we are told. We're told Jesus took care of the problem. Whether it was to conceal the embarrassment, prevent the embarrassment of being poorly prepared, whether it was, whatever the motivation, the larger, or the immediate motivation, the larger motivation was, he revealed his glory to the disciples whom he had invited to come and take a closer look and to walk with him and to be with him. He revealed his glory to them, and they got it. Oh, you are the master of creation. You can turn something into something else. We can't do that. You've got to be God to do that. He revealed his glory, and his disciples believed. Now I say, I don't think that it was generally known, because we don't have any record of everybody else going, whoa, look what this guy can do. There wasn't this and I suspect there's probably mixed reasons for that. Jesus is a guest at the wedding. He is not the center of attention. The bride and groom are. If there's one thing I've learned in my years as a pastor and the number of weddings I've been involved with, is the most important person at a wedding is not the preacher. It's the bride. Yeah. The second most important person is the bride's mother. Everybody knows that. The groom is kind of a distant third. And the preacher is just a fixture. I mean, that's not... So You get a perspective. Jesus knew he was a guest. He was not the center of attraction. And even though he performs a miracle, the first public miracle, he keeps it fairly private. His disciples see what's going on because they're hanging tight and they probably heard his mother and his exchange with her and probably wondered, and I wondered, why do you involve me? My time hasn't come. But then he goes and fixes it. But he fixes it kind of quietly so that he doesn't steal the attention from the bride and groom. I suspect is his motivation there. And he wants his disciples to see, this is the way we are going from this point forward. I am going to demonstrate who I am. I am God. I am the one who can take water and turn it into wine. Later he'll say, I am the one who can take water and walk on it. Later he'll say, I am the one who can take death and wake up from it. So he is revealing his glory. He's helping connect the dots for his disciples, and they believe. And another reason I say that not everybody was in on this or connected the dots, his brothers were there, and they didn't believe. Now, we're not told that in this passage, but we are told that later on, they didn't believe until after the resurrection. We know that sometime between the wedding of Cana and his resurrection, there was a time when his brothers went to take him back home because he had a Messiah complex. They thought he'd lost his mind, and they were trying to protect him from the crowds that were going to inevitably be disappointed with the fact that he's just plain old Jesus, our big brother. They didn't believe in him until after the resurrection. They didn't believe him here. The disciples and his brothers were in the same place at the same time, experienced the same miracle. The disciples believed, the brothers did not. And I understand that. I've got brothers. We're kind of skeptical of our own family sometimes, right? Who does he think he is? Okay, I won't go there. Almost went down a sidetrack that I didn't want to go down. Sorry. The miracle revealed Jesus' glory, and the disciples believed. He connected the dots for them. I believe there's a bigger lesson for us to learn here. The miracles that God does should always reveal his glory. I believe miracles are to reveal, to make known the glory of God. If we find ourselves in a position where we are used by God to deliver his grace and a miracle occurs, we better be very careful how we handle that situation. And we don't take the glory for ourselves. We don't take the glory from God. We want to make sure that God gets the glory. Yes. It is to reveal his glory, and miracles also are to convince us to trust him. To trust him. Miracles, I really don't believe miracles are primarily for our satisfaction. Boy, it really would be nice if this would happen. You know, it would be a miracle. It would be great. I'd like that now, God. Not simply for my satisfaction, and certainly not for my entertainment. And man, sometimes I see us craving for miracles for the sake of a hallelujah moment, so we can, now we should celebrate miracles, we should make some noise about a miracle for the glory of God. But it is not simply for our entertainment by any means. It is for his glory. All right, so moving on. Next episode that happens here. Verse 13. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." Zeal for your house will consume me. Cleansing the temple revealed his zeal, and his disciples recalled the scripture. Jesus' actions brought them back to the Word. Jesus' actions showed his character and his zeal for God and God's house, the things of God, and it helped his disciples connect the dots from Scripture, from their Bible knowledge to their real-life experience. If our Bible knowledge and our real-life experience are disconnected, we need the work of God in our life. Our Bible knowledge and our real-life experience ought to be connected. Otherwise, the world's not going to be convinced. We'll just be a bunch of know-it-alls who can name obscure people in the Bible. He's not looking for know-it-alls. He's looking for people who know the Word so they can live the Word. We're going to live it out. Live it out. They recalled the Scripture. They saw in him the truth of the Word being lived out. Zeal for your house will consume me. Now, this is one of those outliers in Jesus' life. It's a rare thing that we see Jesus express anger like this. I mean, there are a couple of rarities in Jesus' life and ministry. Driving out the thieves, the money changers in the temple. Now, the money changers were people who were offering a service. All these pilgrims coming from out of town to offer a sacrifice, and rather than bringing an animal from wherever, whatever region they came from, and having to bring that animal with them and keep it in good shape so that it was qualified to serve as a sacrifice, why not just have them available here at the market, at the temple? And some sound and good reasoning there, to an extent. But it turns out they had an exchange rate. That the dove that would have cost you $1 someplace else cost you $5. It's kind of like buying a hot dog at the ball game. Once you're inside the gate, they are going to charge you whatever they want to charge you. And that's what they were doing here. And Jesus was not pleased with the profiteering going on in the name of religion, in the name of worship. No, that's not what we do. No. There may have been legitimate people out of town or outside of the temple area who had a market and were offering that real rates. But once they got in the market, then it was, once you got inside the temple, you paid the temple price. Zeal for my house. So his zeal was revealed, and the disciples recalled Scripture, and the dots were connected a little bit more. The disciples were growing. Let's continue reading verse 18. The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all this? Who do you think you are? Disrupting business here. What makes you the judge of this? Why do you think you can do this? Show us a sign so we can believe." They're asking for a miracle. They'll believe a miracle. Or so they say. They want a sign. Now, interestingly, Jesus doesn't do something right then and there, which he certainly had the power to do. Instead, he says, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." And they replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said, and then they believed the Scriptures and the words that Jesus had spoken. You talk about a delayed reaction. He's connecting the dots for them, but it's a long time before they're going to see it come into focus. He's 3 years away, or at least 2. This is his first visit to Jerusalem publicly. He makes 3 visits during his time. So he's at least 2 years away from his death and resurrection. But that's the sign he gives, or he mentions, to the people who are demanding a sign. But the prophecy of his resurrection, the disciples recalled and believed. He prophesied, he predicted, he foretold, I'm going to raise from the dead. He did it in somewhat hidden language, because he's standing at the temple, and he says, destroy this temple, but he doesn't do this. Destroy this temple, and I'll raise it in 3 days. It doesn't come clear until he's resurrected from the dead. And then the disciples get it. But interestingly, if we read the next few verses, verses 23 and to the end, now while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover festival, many people saw the signs he was performing. We're not told what those other signs were. We're not told what all was going on that they were seeing, and believed in his name. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all people. He did not need any testimony about mankind, for he knew what was in each person. He's trying to keep somewhat low-key, which is hard to do when you go in and you turn over all the money changers' tables and you make a whip and you drive the animals out of the court. I mean, that's not real low-key. And yet, he doesn't make this outward proclamation, hey, I'm the Son of God who came to save the world. He does not make that proclamation at that point. What he does is helps his disciples connect the dots so that they can trust him more. They see and believe and they grow in their faith. So got some questions. Are you connecting the dots in your own life on a daily basis? Are you watching for the glory of the Lord to be revealed? The things that he said he wants to do. Are you watching for that around you and seeing the glory of God being revealed? And then giving God credit for it. It does not give God glory if you don't give him credit for it. If we pray for a hurricane to miss the city, and it misses the city, and that's what we prayed for, our response should be, thank God who controls the weather and save that city, rather than, I don't know why we were so worried about praying for that. It didn't hit the city after all. But that's what we do sometimes. Whether it's a hurricane or something else. We pray for God to do something, it happens, and we go, I don't know why I was so worried about that. It didn't happen. Instead of giving God glory, giving him credit for what he's done. Are we taking advantage of the opportunities to reveal God's glory when the doors open? I believe he's always opening doors for us to reveal his glory. And he wants others to see and believe. And are you living with a zeal that others will see and be convinced by? The disciples saw the zeal of Jesus, and it brought them to Scripture. Connected them, they were connecting the dots from Scripture to real life. Okay. And are we in the Scripture enough to connect the dots of what God has done, what he said, and what he is doing in, through, and around you? Or are we living kind of oblivious? Are we demanding a miracle, a sign? Well, God, if you're really God, and there's a time and a place for people who are not yet believers to say, if you're really God, then, and whatever it is. I have heard so many stories of people who prayed that way, not sure if there was a God who was listening, but in hopes, in desperation, if there's really a God out there, would you just, and they name something ridiculous, or maybe very practical. was reading a biography of a missionary who felt prompted by God to give her neighbor in the apartment. She lived in an apartment in the city, but she went to the mission where they were, I can't remember what the mission was doing, if it was an orphanage or they were working with the down hours, but she would live in her apartment and then she'd go and do this ministry work at the mission, and then she'd go back to her apartment. And she was in her devotional time and saying, I'm not really doing anything for my neighbors. God, what can I do to reach my neighbors? Yes, I'm helping out at the mission, but I live here, so what can I do in my apartment building? And she felt prompted one morning in her devotional time to bring an egg to her neighbor. Egg. They've got about 27 kids in that house. Huh? What's one egg? It wasn't quite that big, but it was a huge family. She goes, what's one egg going to do among 7 kids or whatever it was? An egg. And she dismissed it like, well, that wasn't God, clearly. Went to work, came back, eating in her apartment, and felt prompted again, bring an egg to your neighbor. Okay, I'm just going to do it then. Went next door, one of the kids answered the door. I want you to have this egg. Give it to your mother, would you? Okay. Fine. The mother comes over that evening and said, I was so despairing and so desperate. I wanted to know that God was real. And I asked, God, if you're real, would you just have someone give me an egg today? We don't know what people are praying for, or how God will answer that prayer through us. And there are times when you might say, what's one egg going to do among a family that size? That can't be God. Let's be sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit. Let's bring the egg over and allow God to reveal His glory, even though we're dumbfounded. And I have to think there are times when we'll be, what? I don't get it. What happened? What just happened here? And let them explain it. Well, I was praying, God, if you're really there, send me an egg. Oftentimes, I really believe our role is simply to be the delivery boy, the delivery girl in somebody else's life, doing something minuscule and obscure and meaningless to us, but powerful to them. Yeah. Because it's timely, it's what they're looking for, and it reveals the glory of God to them in ways that we didn't imagine or think of. You know, when I think of the glory of God, I think of the sanctuary filled with smoke. I think of lightning and thunder from the mountaintop. I think of a voice booming across the plains. I don't think of an egg going, here, give this to your mom. That's not the picture I have. But if that's what they were praying for, and that's what would convince them that there was a God who loved them and cared for them, then let me be the guy who delivers the egg. Let us be people who are sensitive to the Holy Spirit and follows through, taking advantage of the open doors that God has given us to reveal His glory to those around us. The disciples were growing. In chapter 1, we saw that they were invited. Come and take a closer look. And then come and follow. And then He says, I know you. I know you by name. I know who you are and where you are. Let us be reminded, He knows us. And He wants us closer. Amen. He wants us closer. And then as we get closer, let us be like Andrew and Philip who brought others closer. Brought them in for a closer look and see the glory of the Lord revealed. Let's pray. Father, thank you for being the God who knows us, who cares for us, and whether it's to help hide the embarrassment of poor planning, or whether it's to give us freedom of movement or freedom from pain, Lord, we know that you are still a God who works miracles. And not simply for our benefit, but primarily for your glory and the salvation of those who are yet to believe. Help us to be faithful stewards of the message of the gospel. You are a God who knows us. You are a God who cares. You are a God who continues to work miracles. Father, in this place, perhaps there are people here who you are saying, come closer. Come and see. I know you're saying that to all of us, wherever we are, but maybe there are some who have not yet begun to walk with you, to trust you. Lord, in your name, I extend that invitation. And while we're in an attitude of prayer, with heads bowed and eyes closed, if you're here this morning and you have not yet said yes to Jesus to be your Lord and Savior, if you're here and you know you're not right with God, and if you're not right with God, you know it. I don't have to know it, but you know it. The Holy Spirit has already convinced you. Now's the time to say, God, forgive me. God, change me. Receive me into your family. I want to know you more. And if that's you, would you raise your hand and look my way? Across this room, the heads are bowed and eyes are closed, but if you raise your hand and look my way, acknowledge that you are asking Jesus to take away the blockage that's between you and him. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for opening the way that we can know you. And Lord, even after we've gotten started, there are times when perhaps we stall out, or we stay back a little bit. And we know that you continue to invite us to come closer, take a closer look, get more familiar. You are helping to connect the dots so that we can trust you with more of our lives. In this room, Lord, show us those areas in our lives where we have hesitated to trust you, where we have been slow to say yes to your prompting. God, forgive us for dropping the ball when you've put us in the game, given us an opportunity. Help us to listen carefully, follow closely, and reveal your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. If you've been walking with Jesus for some time and the Holy Spirit really nudged you this morning about an area of your life where maybe you just haven't been paying attention. And maybe you've been distracted, or maybe you were trying real hard not to pay attention. There's sometimes when we do that, right? Yeah. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to, because then I'm responsible. But if the Holy Spirit talked to you about something like that in your life, agree with him. Receive his grace to get victory in that area, to be obedient, and to reveal his glory, so that others will know that he is God and he is good. Let's stand together, shall we? I want to read from Romans 15, verse 13. When I pause, you fill in the missing words. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit. It is the Holy Spirit who works in us so that we might overflow with hope, because the world needs hope. Let's give it to him. God bless. Have a great day.